Hey guys, how you doing? It's Mike. You're watching Mike's Rockin' Relics, and today on the show we're going to talk about. I was going through some tickets and things the other day of some old shows that I'd seen. I've put them all into an album, and I looked at the very first concert I ever attended. And I just wanted to talk about the impact that had on me at the time and continues to today, and what it did for my life and how it changed things for me, and whether or not that's still relevant nowadays for younger people and the impact of live music and things like that. So I wanted to talk about that today on the show. Stay tuned and we'll get into it. So back in 1998, I was 19 years old and was just finishing up high school, and the Rolling Stones were coming to Toronto, and I live about an hour outside of Toronto. And I'd never really been to a major concert before, so this was something that I had interest in, and I was a Stones fan then and still am, and wanted to check out this show and went to it, and it was at the Sky Dome in Toronto, and just seeing the spectacle of the Rolling Stones at maybe their stadium tour height, when they were really cooking live and probably better than they ever played, actually. And the stadium show was getting very perfected, and the backdrops and everything were, really revolutionary and new and different. And you could argue that the Rolling Stones invented the art of touring stadiums and putting on big spectacles all the way back to the late 60s, 70s. So this was a big moment, and I was able to get tickets. We were in the 500 level, so up top. But just how much this impacted my life at the time and continues to, and it actually is the reason I do what I do now for a living and everything like that. So this was a big deal for me at the time, and I can remember the sort of the anticipation of the show. And in fact, the original date, I was reminded, got canceled because Mick had a sore throat or something, and it was rescheduled till then. So I think I was 18 when it was supposed to happen, and it wasn't until I was 19 that we actually went. With the rescheduled date. But the show itself was nothing short of amazing and spectacular, and everything about it was just what I had hoped for and expected and wanted. So we'll talk a little bit about this today, and I also want to talk about kind of nowadays the differences between that time and now, and things that now that I have a daughter myself, she's not quite that age, but we're creeping up to the age of concerts and things like that. So this was early on for me as somebody getting into music that much, but I just want to compare some of the differences. So at the time, the Stones were touring the Bridges to Babylon CD or record, and this is my original one from then. And it had about 4 major hits on it. Flip of the Switch, Anybody Seen My Baby, Out of Control, and Saint of Me, I think, were the big hits. But a 5th song that I think is really overlooked is Keith Richards' Thief in the Night, which is an amazing song. So it's a strong album, one of the last really strong Stones albums, in my opinion. A lot of people don't give the later Stones albums any credit, but there's some really good stuff on there. I like it anyway, and I think they're decent. So those tunes were definitely part of the set and songs that were featured in the show. And I remember at the time kind of not really having the album for very long, I don't think, before this actually happened. But certainly was recognizable material by the time they performed it. And it had a great intro to the show. It was dark, and the screen had this little dot on it that gradually got bigger and then exploded. And Keith came out. I have a picture of this. Keith came out in a leopard skin coat, or leopard print coat, I guess, with this amazing Telecaster, and you heard the opening riffs to Satisfaction. It was just a great thing that I'll never forget. It'll be with me forever. And right in that moment for me, it became crystal clear that somehow I want to involve music in what I do. And this is something I've never felt like this before. And I was, up until that point, very much into sports and kind of more of a sports guy than a music guy. I played guitar for a few years at that point, but nothing really serious. And seeing this show really did change the way I thought about things and kind of what I was going to do going forward. So I did a video on this about a year ago maybe, but seeing that show and Keith coming out with that Telecaster, I always wanted to find one with that sort of blonde color, and I finally did find one. This took me years to track down, but it was something that had always been in the back of my mind and one that I wanted to find. And that guitar is one that I'll never get rid of, that I searched and searched to find and finally tracked one down. But very much affected me and wanted, for me it was a way that I really wanted to get into music, and I started to really kind of concentrate more on learning and playing, and also learning about bands and collecting music and getting into records a lot more than I had been, and just kind of immersing myself into this. Even when I was at school and doing other things, it was kind of, music was my main idea. And after the show, that sort of was the driving force in my life for a long time, and it just became something that I became almost obsessed with. I just thought, this is something that I've never felt this way before. I've never connected with anything before. I enjoyed sports. This was different. This felt like something that was in me that had to happen and had to get out. It felt like something that I had to do. I don't know why. I can't really explain it. It just really, really hit me. And it's something I'm conscious of now when I'm playing guitar places. Not that we're anything near what the Stones were doing, but when I'm playing places, I see little kids sometimes, and it's the first time they've ever heard live music at all. And anymore, I started to think, this is something that is starting to be harder and harder to see and to witness and to find, and kids aren't exposed to it the way I was growing up. It was kind of just different places. You kind of almost took it for granted. Now you can see singer-songwriter type acoustic people playing, but to see a band and to see a rock band somewhere in your youth is getting harder and harder. And the scene for that, the bar bands, the cover bands, that sort of thing, it's really dying off, and there's not new ones coming along that are into that and doing that. And so the audiences are older, the bands are getting older. So when I see a little kid sometimes dancing away to us, I really try to kind of encourage them, because it's like, that's the end of the line. If they don't get into it, or if they don't find the spark like I did, then it's all but gone, and that the live scene's going to dry up a little bit. I think we also live in a world now of social media, and stuff's instantly there and at your feet, and you can see it. You don't necessarily follow bands the way you used to. You have to kind of learn about that band, follow their social media to see where they're playing, and 90% of them are playing little club shows, which are great, that's fine. But the stadium shows, it's getting to be fewer and fewer people that can pull that off and pull in that kind of audience. And for the audience perspective, the cost is getting ridiculous. And so less and less families are going to these. You're going to get your diehard fans that are, going to go see them for the 7th time or something. Or it's nostalgic, like the current Oasis tour and things like that, where guys my age are going, yeah, I want to go live that one more time, and they're willing to pay, $700-800 for a nosebleed ticket to do that. But you're not going to see a family go to this. You're not going to see people that have to choose between rent and a concert, and it's changed dramatically. And I think the death of the music industry, the side effect of that is concert tickets are where they're trying to make their income now, and where they're trying to, through merchandise and ticket sales and touring, that's where they're making the bulk of their income. So they're going to charge as much as they can to do that. And it's getting a little difficult for the average person to afford and to enjoy. And I think if I hadn't have gone to this show, I wouldn't have had a life of music. I just know I wouldn't have. And, my job is music all day long, to the point where some days I even burn out on it. I teach music, I play music, I collect music, and I listen to music. So I'm doing all that all the time. And if I hadn't have been able to afford that ticket as a teenager, would that have happened? And I think the answer is no. I don't think I would have done that. I don't think I would have been as interested. Seeing that show really did drastically alter the way I thought about things. And there are bands, you know, or people touring now that are having this effect. I know, having an 11-year-old daughter, my daughter's a huge Taylor Swift fan. That has inspired her to play guitar, and she plays guitar, and that's wonderful. You know, I have nothing bad to say about that. I think she's a great role model for kids, and a smart businesswoman. So, you know, all that's great, but there's just not a lot of them. There's not a lot of options and things, but there are a few that seem to rise to that level of stardom and things like that. And it's great for a kid to have that, you know, dream, that role model, that, you know, idol, you know, a little bit. But, you know, it's a lot of people are not that interested in shows and stuff anymore because it's so cost prohibitive and music's so disposable. Like, they might want to go see somebody, but it may not have a profound effect on them like it did me. So I'm going to start quickly sounding like the old man shouting at clouds pretty soon. But this is something that I've been thinking about, is just how different things are now to when I was a teenager. And I'm sure every generation says the same thing. I'm sure, you know, my parents thought the same thing when I was 19. But there's it feels like a little bit more disconnected now, and the loss of the music industry to me hurts all of this. And streaming's great, and it's very easy, and, you know, it allows exposure to a lot of different artists that maybe you wouldn't know about. But at the same time, it really does make touring and the way music is released and hit singles and things very different. And one of the casualties is sort of the somewhat death of the rock band in a way. There's rock music is really underground, and if you see it, you know, it's chances are it's in a very small club now, or it's a band that's been around for 40 or 50 years that are still going. It's kind of not a new band doing stadiums, with the exception of a few. So just something I've been noticing. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you're a big fan of rock and roll and you like records, guitars, and stories about rock and roll, be sure to give us a like and subscribe, and ring that bell. It helps us to grow the channel and keep more stuff coming. Thanks a lot.